Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to God's message today. I'm so grateful you found your way here, because this message is not a coincidence. The angels have been whispering your name, and there's something profound they want you to know about your soulmate connection. Right now, as you're watching this video, your soulmate is carrying a secret worry about you that's been weighing on their heart. But here's what will amaze you. This worry isn't what you think it is, and it's actually a sign of something incredibly beautiful happening in the spiritual realm. If you're new to our channel, I want you to know that every message here is divinely inspired, meant to bring you closer to God's truth and His perfect plan for your love life. Please take a moment right now to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because God has so many more revelations waiting for you. The angels have specifically asked me to share these messages with souls like yours who are ready to receive divine wisdom about love, relationships, and spiritual connections. Before we dive deeper into what your soulmate secretly worries about, I want you to do something powerful right now. In the comment section below, I want you to type, "I believe in God," if you're ready to receive this divine message about your soulmate. This simple act of faith will open your heart to receive everything the angels want to share with you today. Don't skip this step. Your comment creates a spiritual vibration that aligns you with God's perfect timing for love. Your soulmate is out there right now, and they're thinking about you more than you realize. But what they're worried about isn't that you won't find each other. No, it's something much deeper and more beautiful than that. They're worried about whether they'll be worthy of the love God has planned for both of you. They're worried about whether they'll be ready when the divine timing aligns your paths. They're worried about whether they'll recognize the signs that God will send when it's time for you to meet. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:22, "He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord." But here's what most people don't understand about this verse. It's not just about finding each other physically. It's about both souls being spiritually prepared to receive God's blessing of divine love. Your soulmate is being prepared by God right now, just as you are, and their worry comes from a place of deep reverence for the sacred connection you're destined to share. Right now, your soulmate is probably lying awake at night, praying to God about their readiness to love you the way you deserve to be loved. They're asking themselves questions like, will I be emotionally mature enough? Will I be financially stable enough? Will I be spiritually grounded enough to be the partner God wants me to be? These aren't superficial concerns. These are the deep, soul-level worries of someone who understands that true love is a responsibility, a calling, and a divine gift that must be honored. The angels want you to know that your soulmate's worry is actually a sign of their spiritual maturity. They're not taking this connection lightly. They understand that when God brings two souls together, it's not just about personal happiness. It's about fulfilling a divine purpose together. Your soulmate is worried because they feel the magnitude of what God is preparing, and they want to be worthy of the trust He's placing in them. In Matthew 6:33, Jesus teaches us, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Your soulmate is living this verse right now. They're seeking God's kingdom first, working on themselves, growing spiritually, and preparing their heart to receive and give divine love. Their worry isn't doubt, it's reverence. It's the same feeling Moses had when he stood before the burning bush, overwhelmed by the magnitude of God's calling. What's beautiful about this is that while your soulmate is worried about their readiness, you're also being prepared in your own way. God is orchestrating both of your spiritual journeys simultaneously. He's healing your past wounds, building your faith, strengthening your character, and preparing your heart to recognize and receive the love He has planned for you. The timing of your meeting isn't random. It's divinely orchestrated down to the exact moment when both of your souls will be ready to say yes to God's perfect plan. Your soulmate is also worried about something else that might surprise you. They're worried about whether they'll be able to love you through the difficult times. They understand that real love isn't just about the honeymoon phase or the easy moments. They're preparing themselves to love you through challenges, to support you through your growth, to be your anchor when storms come. They're worried because they take this responsibility seriously. The prophet Isaiah reminds us in Isaiah 43:19, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." God is doing a new thing in your love life right now. He's making a way where there seemed to be no way. Your soulmate can sense this new thing stirring, and their worry comes from wanting to be a worthy participant in God's miraculous work. If you're receiving this message, please take a moment to hit that like button. Your engagement helps this divine message reach other souls who need to hear it. The angels have specifically asked me to share this with as many people as possible, and your like helps that happen. Your soulmate is currently in a season of preparation that they might not even fully understand. They're being led by God to make certain changes, to release certain patterns, to embrace certain spiritual practices. They might be ending relationships that aren't serving their highest good. They might be changing careers to align with their divine purpose. They might be healing family relationships or addressing deep-seated fears. All of this is happening because God is preparing them to love you completely and authentically. The worry your soulmate carries isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of their spiritual sensitivity. They can feel the importance of what's coming. They can sense that their life is about to change in beautiful ways. They're worried because they don't want to mess up God's perfect plan. They're worried because they can feel your energy, your prayers, your heart calling out to them across time and space, and they want to be ready to answer that call. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we read, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Your soulmate understands that there's a divine season for your meeting, and they're using this time of preparation wisely. They're not just sitting around waiting, they're actively participating in God's preparation process. They're praying, growing, learning, and becoming the person God needs them to be for you. Here's something beautiful the angels want you to know. Your soulmate's worry is actually creating a spiritual protection around your future relationship. Their concern for being worthy of your love is creating an energetic field of reverence and respect that will be the foundation of your connection. When you finally meet, this worry will transform into deep appreciation, profound gratitude, and unwavering commitment. Your soulmate is also worried about timing, but not in the way you might think. They're not worried about when you'll meet. They trust God's timing for that. They're worried about whether they'll recognize the moment when it happens. They're worried about whether they'll be spiritually awake enough to see the signs God will send. They're worried about whether they'll have the courage to step forward when God opens the door. The Bible tells us in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Your soulmate is holding on to this promise, but they're also feeling the weight of participating in God's plan responsibly. They want to be a blessing to you, not a burden. They want to add to your life, not complicate it. Right now, your soulmate might be going through what seems like a difficult season, but it's actually a season of preparation. They might be facing challenges that are teaching them patience, endurance, and faith. They might be learning lessons about sacrifice, service, and unconditional love. Every challenge they're facing is actually preparing them to love you better, to understand you deeper, to support you stronger. The angels want you to know that you can pray for your soulmate right now, even though you haven't met them yet. You can pray for their peace, their preparation, their spiritual growth. You can pray that God will ease their worry and fill them with confidence in His perfect plan. Your prayers are creating a spiritual bridge between your hearts, and your soulmate can feel this love and support even if they don't understand where it's coming from. In 1 Corinthians 13:4-7, Paul describes love. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Your soulmate is studying these words, not just reading them. They're asking God to help them embody this kind of love for you. Your soulmate's worry is also about their past. They're concerned about whether their history will affect your future together. They're worried about whether you'll be able to accept their journey, their mistakes, their growth process. But here's what the angels want you to know. God doesn't waste anything. Every experience your soulmate has had, every lesson they've learned, every mistake they've made and learned from, all of it is preparing them to love you better. The beauty of God's plan is that He doesn't just bring two perfect people together. He brings two perfectly imperfect people together and helps them create something beautiful through their love and commitment to Him. Your soulmate's worry about their worthiness is actually evidence of their humility and their desire to honor God through your relationship. Romans 8:28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Your soulmate is learning to trust this promise, but they're also feeling the responsibility of being part of God's good work in your life. They want to be a blessing, not a complication. As we continue, I want you to know that your soulmate is also worried about whether they'll be able to support your dreams and your divine purpose. They understand that God has called you to do something specific in this world, and they want to be a partner who helps you fulfill that calling, not someone who holds you back. They're preparing themselves to be your greatest earthly supporter, your spiritual companion, your partner in fulfilling God's plan for your life. This worry shows the depth of their love for you, even before you've met. It shows their understanding that marriage isn't just about companionship. It's about partnership in God's kingdom. They're worried because they want to be worthy of walking beside you as you fulfill your divine destiny. Asterisk, your soulmate is spending countless hours in prayer, specifically asking God to show them how to love you well. They're not just praying for your meeting. They're praying for wisdom, for discernment, for the ability to recognize your heart, your needs, your dreams. They're worried that they might miss something important about you, that they might not understand the depth of who you are or the beauty of what God has placed within you. This worry stems from their recognition that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. As Psalm 139:14 declares, they can sense, even without knowing you yet, that you are a masterpiece of God's creation, and they're overwhelmed by the privilege of being chosen to love you. They're worried because they understand that loving you isn't just about emotions or attraction. It's about stewarding one of God's most precious creations. The angels want you to understand that your soulmate's worry is actually a form of worship. Every time they concern themselves with being worthy of your love, they're acknowledging God's sovereignty in your connection. Every time they question their readiness, they're surrendering to God's perfect timing. Every time they wonder if they'll be enough, they're making space for God to be more than enough through them. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about the spiritual battles you might be facing right now. They can sense in the spiritual realm that you're being prepared for something significant, and they know that preparation often comes with challenges. They're worried about the loneliness you might be feeling, the doubts that might creep in, the moments when you wonder if God's promise of love is real. They're praying for your strength, your faith, your peace during this season of waiting. In Ephesians 6:12, Paul reminds us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Your soulmate understands that your connection exists in the spiritual realm first, and they're worried about the spiritual warfare that might be trying to prevent your union. They're praying for God's protection over both of you, for His angels to surround you, for His strength to sustain you both until the appointed time. What's beautiful is that your soulmate is learning to cast their anxieties on God, just as 1 Peter 5-7 instructs. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. They're discovering that their worry, when given to God, transforms into intercession. Their concern for you becomes prayer. Their desire to be worthy becomes surrender to God's transforming power. Your soulmate is also worried about the practical aspects of loving you well. They're concerned about whether they'll be able to provide for you, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, and in every way that matters. They're working on themselves, their career, their spiritual life, their emotional health, because they understand that love is not just about feelings, it's about capacity. They want to have the capacity to love you fully, completely, without reservation. The truth is, your soulmate is experiencing what many spiritual teachers call holy anxiety, a concern that comes from recognizing the sacred nature of what God is preparing. It's the same feeling Mary must have experienced when the angel Gabriel announced she would carry the Christ child. It's the feeling of being chosen for something greater than yourself and wanting to be worthy of that calling. Your soulmate is worried about whether they'll have the spiritual maturity to love you through your growth seasons. They understand that God doesn't just bring you together as you are. He brings you together to become who He's called you to be. They're worried about whether they'll be able to encourage you through your transformations, support you through your challenges, and celebrate you through your victories without jealousy or insecurity. In 1 Thessalonians 5:11, Paul writes, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." Your soulmate is preparing to be your greatest encourager, your most faithful supporter, your most consistent source of earthly strength. They're worried because they take this responsibility seriously. They want to be the person who helps you become everything God has called you to be. The angels are showing me that your soulmate is also concerned about their own healing journey. They're worried about whether they've dealt with their past completely enough to love you without baggage. They're worried about whether their family patterns, their childhood experiences, their previous relationships have been fully surrendered to God's healing power. They don't want to bring any unresolved issues into your sacred connection. But here's what God wants your soulmate to know, and what He wants you to know. Healing is not a destination. It's a journey. God doesn't wait for us to be perfect before He blesses us with love. He gives us love as part of the healing process. Your soulmate's awareness of their need for continued healing is actually evidence of their spiritual maturity, not their unworthiness. Your soulmate is worried about whether they'll be able to create the kind of home environment that honors God and nurtures your soul. They're not just thinking about physical space. They're thinking about emotional atmosphere, spiritual climate, the energy you'll both create together. They want your home to be a place where God's presence is welcome, where peace reigns, where love flourishes. As Colossians 3:17 instructs, "And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through Him." Your soulmate is learning to live this verse now, in preparation for living it with you. They're worried about whether they'll be able to maintain this level of spiritual intentionality when life gets busy, when challenges come, when the everyday routines of marriage set in. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about being a good spiritual leader or partner in your relationship. If they're called to be the spiritual head of your future family, they're worried about their ability to lead with humility, wisdom, and love. If they're called to be a spiritual partner, They're worried about their ability to encourage and support your spiritual growth. They understand that spiritual leadership isn't about control. It's about service, sacrifice, and pointing each other toward God. The worry your soulmate carries about you extends to your extended family and friends. They're concerned about whether they'll be able to love the people you love, whether they'll be able to fit into your existing relationships without causing disruption. They want to be a blessing to your entire circle, not a source of division. They're praying for wisdom in how to navigate these relationships with grace and love. Your soulmate is worried about whether they'll be able to love you through the seasons when you don't feel lovable. They understand that true love is tested not just by life's external challenges, but by the internal struggles we all face. They're worried about whether they'll have the spiritual strength to love you through depression, anxiety, doubt, fear, or any other internal battles you might face. In Song of Solomon 8-7, we read, "Many waters cannot quench love. Rivers cannot sweep it away." Your soulmate is asking God to give them this kind of love for you, a love that cannot be quenched by circumstances, difficulties, or seasons of struggle. They're worried because they want to love you with God's love, not just human love, and they understand the difference. The angels want you to know that your soulmate's worry is actually creating a spiritual covering over your future relationship. Every concern they bring to God in prayer becomes a place where God's grace can work. Every area where they feel insufficient becomes a place where God can be more than sufficient. Their worry is becoming worship. Their anxiety is becoming intercession. Their fear is becoming faith. Your soulmate is also worried about timing in ways that show their spiritual sensitivity. They're not worried about when you'll meet. They trust God's timing for that. They're worried about being spiritually ready to receive what God wants to give through your connection. They're worried about being prepared to steward the blessing of your love responsibly. Please take a moment to like this video. If these words are resonating with your heart, your engagement helps this message reach other souls who need to hear what God is saying about their divine connections. The angels have specifically asked me to share this message with as many people as possible, and your like helps that happen. Your soulmate is spending time in worship, and during these times, they're receiving downloads from God about your future together. They're getting glimpses of the life you'll build, the ministry you might share, the family you might create, the legacy you'll leave. These glimpses are beautiful, but they're also overwhelming. They're worried about being worthy of the vision God is showing them. The Bible tells us in Habakkuk 2:2, "Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it." Your soulmate is receiving revelation about your future together, and they're writing it down in their heart. They're worried about whether they'll be faithful to carry out what God is showing them. Your soulmate is also concerned about the generational impact of your relationship. They understand that your love story isn't just about the two of you. It's about the generations that will come after you, the example you'll set, the legacy you'll create. They're worried about whether they'll be able to love you in a way that honors not just you, but the generations that will be blessed by your union. Asterisk, your soulmate is experiencing profound spiritual downloads during their quiet times with God, and these revelations are both exciting and overwhelming. They're receiving visions of the ministry you might share together, the way your combined gifts will serve God's kingdom, and the impact your love story will have on others. But with these beautiful glimpses comes the weight of responsibility. They're worried about whether they'll be faithful to fulfill what God is showing them about your destiny together. The angels want you to understand that your soulmate's worry is actually evidence of their prophetic sensitivity. They can feel the shift happening in the spiritual realm as your meeting approaches. They can sense that God is orchestrating circumstances, moving people, and aligning situations to bring you together at the perfect moment. This spiritual awareness creates a holy anticipation mixed with reverent concern about being ready for what God is about to do. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to protect your heart. They understand that you've been through experiences that have shaped you, perhaps wounded you, and they're worried about whether they'll be gentle enough with your tender places. They're praying for God to give them supernatural sensitivity to your emotional needs, your triggers, your healing journey. They don't want to be someone who reopens old wounds. They want to be part of God's healing process in your life. In Isaiah 61:3, God promises to give beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Your soulmate is asking God to make them part of this beautiful exchange in your life. They're worried because they want to be a source of beauty, joy, and praise in your journey, not another source of ashes, mourning, or heaviness. The depth of your soulmate's concern extends to your calling and destiny. They're worried about whether they'll be able to support your divine purpose without jealousy or competition. They understand that God has uniquely gifted you, that you have specific assignments on this earth, and they want to be the person who helps you fulfill those assignments, not someone who competes with them or diminishes them. Your soulmate is spending time studying the marriages in the Bible, learning from couples like Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel. They're worried about repeating the mistakes these couples made, and they're praying for God to help them learn from both the successes and failures of biblical marriages. They want your love story to be one that honors God and serves as an example for others. The angels are revealing that your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love your family as their own. They're praying for God to give them genuine love for your parents, your siblings, your children if you have them. They understand that loving you means embracing your entire world, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to do this authentically. They don't want to just tolerate your family. They want to genuinely love them. Your soulmate is wrestling with questions about sacrifice and service. They're worried about whether they'll be able to lay down their own desires when necessary to serve your needs and God's plan for your relationship. They understand that biblical love is sacrificial love, as demonstrated by Christ's love for the church, and they're asking God to prepare their heart for this level of selfless devotion. In Ephesians 5:25, Paul instructs, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Whether your soulmate is male or female, they're studying this verse and asking God to help them love you with Christ-like love. They're worried because they understand the magnitude of this calling. To love someone the way Christ loves the church requires divine enabling. Your soulmate is also concerned about the spiritual warfare that might intensify as your meeting approaches. They understand that the enemy doesn't want godly unions to form, doesn't want two people to come together in love and service to God. They're worried about attacks on their mind, their emotions, their circumstances. They're praying for God's protection and asking him to surround both of you with his angels. The worry your soulmate carries is actually creating a spiritual atmosphere of reverence around your future relationship. Every concern they bring to God becomes a place where his grace can work. Every area where they feel inadequate becomes a place where God can demonstrate his sufficiency. Their worry is becoming worship. Their anxiety is becoming intercession. Your soulmate is deeply concerned about their ability to communicate with you effectively. They're worried about whether they'll be able to express their love in ways you can receive and understand. They're learning about love languages, studying communication styles, and praying for God to give them wisdom in how to speak to your heart. They want to be fluent in the language of your soul. The angels want you to know that your soulmate is also worried about their ability to maintain their individual relationship with God while building a relationship with you. They're concerned about losing their personal intimacy with God in the excitement of romantic love. They understand that their relationship with God must be the foundation of their relationship with you, and they're worried about keeping these priorities in proper order. Your soulmate is experiencing what could be called divine restlessness, a spiritual stirring that tells them change is coming. They might be feeling unsettled in their current situation, sensing that God is about to move them, shift them, or change their circumstances. This restlessness is actually God preparing them for the season of your meeting, but it creates worry about whether they're hearing God correctly. In Proverbs 3:5-6, we read, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Your soulmate is learning to live this verse daily, but they're worried about whether they're truly trusting God's guidance or trying to figure things out in their own understanding. Your soulmate is also concerned about the practical aspects of merging two lives into one. They're worried about whether they'll be able to adapt to your lifestyle, your preferences, your way of doing things. They're praying for flexibility, for the ability to compromise without compromising their values, for wisdom in creating a life together that honors both of your personalities and preferences. The depth of your soulmate's preparation is evident in their prayer life. They're not just praying for themselves. They're praying for you daily. They're asking God to protect you, to provide for you, to encourage you, to prepare you for your meeting. They're worried about the challenges you might be facing right now, the loneliness you might be experiencing, the doubts that might be creeping in. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to be emotionally present with you. They're worried about whether they'll be able to give you the emotional attention and support you need, especially if they're naturally introverted or struggle with emotional expression. They're asking God to open their heart, to help them be vulnerable, to give them the courage to share their feelings openly. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:18, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love." Your soulmate is learning to distinguish between healthy concern and fear-based worry. They're asking God to purify their concern, to help them love you without fear, to trust his perfect love to cover any inadequacies they might have. Your soulmate is worried about whether they'll be able to celebrate your successes without insecurity. They want to be your biggest cheerleader, your most enthusiastic supporter, but they're concerned about their ability to celebrate you when you achieve things they haven't achieved, when you excel in areas where they struggle. They're praying for God to deliver them from comparison and competition. The angels are showing me that your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through the seasons when you're growing and changing. They understand that God will continue to transform both of you throughout your marriage, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to love the person you're becoming, not just the person you are when you meet. Your soulmate is studying the fruit of the Spirit listed in Galatians 5:22-23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. They're asking God to develop these qualities in their character, but they're worried about whether they'll be able to demonstrate these consistently in your relationship, especially during difficult times. The worry your soulmate carries about you is actually creating a spiritual bond between your hearts even before you meet. Every time they pray for you, every time they concern themselves with your well-being, every time they ask God to prepare them to love you well, they're creating spiritual ties that will strengthen your connection when you finally come together. Soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to forgive and ask for forgiveness. They understand that every relationship requires grace, mercy, and the ability to extend and receive forgiveness. They're worried about whether they'll be able to forgive quickly, love unconditionally, and maintain a humble heart when conflicts arise. As we continue to explore the depths of your soulmate's heart, remember that their worry is not a weakness. It's a strength. It's evidence of their spiritual maturity, their reverence for God's plan, and their deep love for you, even before you've met. If you're feeling blessed by this message, please take a moment to like this video and help us share this divine revelation with others who need to hear it. Asterisk, your soulmate is experiencing profound spiritual sensitivity about the timing of your meeting, and this creates a unique type of worry. They're not anxious about when it will happen. They trust God's perfect timing. Instead, they're concerned about recognizing the moment when it arrives. They're worried they might miss the signs, overlook the divine orchestration, or fail to step forward with courage when God opens the door. This holy anticipation is keeping them in a state of spiritual alertness that's actually preparing them to receive what God has planned. The angels want you to understand that your soulmate's worry extends beyond your romantic relationship to encompass your entire spiritual journey together. They can sense in the realm of the Spirit that your union will have kingdom implications. They're receiving glimpses of how your combined prayers will be more powerful, how your joint ministry will reach souls they couldn't reach alone, how your love story will become a testimony that draws others to God. This revelation is beautiful, but overwhelming, and they're worried about being faithful to such a significant calling. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to love you through your seasons of spiritual growth. They understand that God will continue to transform you throughout your life together, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to love who you're becoming, not just who you are when you meet. They're asking God to give them the grace to love you through your victories and your struggles, your mountaintop experiences and your valley seasons. In 2 Corinthians 3:18, Paul writes, "And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." Your soulmate is studying this verse and asking God to help them love you through every stage of your transformation into Christ's image. They're worried because they want to be a catalyst for your spiritual growth, not a hindrance to it. The depth of your soulmate's preparation is evident in how they're handling their current relationships. They're worried about whether they've properly closed doors that needed to be closed, whether they've forgiven everyone they needed to forgive, whether they've made peace with their past. They understand that unresolved relationships can affect your future together, and they're diligently working to clear their emotional and spiritual slate. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to create healthy boundaries in your relationship. They're worried about whether they'll be able to maintain their individual identity while building a life together. They understand that God created you as two distinct individuals who are meant to complement each other, not lose yourselves in each other. They're praying for wisdom about how to be intimate without being codependent, how to be close without being controlling. The Bible reminds us in Genesis 2:24, "That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh." Your soulmate is studying this concept of becoming one while remaining two, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to navigate this divine mystery successfully. They want to experience true unity with you without sacrificing the uniqueness that God created in each of you. Your soulmate is experiencing what spiritual teachers call divine downloads during their prayer and worship times. They're receiving insights about your personality, your gifts, your calling, your heart. These revelations are preparing them to love you specifically, not generically. But with these insights comes the weight of responsibility. They're worried about whether they'll be able to steward these revelations properly, whether they'll be able to love you according to what God has shown them about you. The angels are revealing that your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to support your dreams and aspirations. They're worried about whether they'll be able to encourage you to pursue your calling, even when it requires sacrifice from them. They understand that true love sometimes means supporting your partner's dreams, even when it's costly, even when it requires personal sacrifice. They're asking God to give them this kind of selfless love. Your soulmate is deeply worried about the spiritual atmosphere they'll create in your home together. They're not just thinking about physical space. They're thinking about the spiritual climate you'll establish. They want your home to be a place where God's presence is welcome, where His peace reigns, where His love flows freely. They're worried about whether they'll be able to maintain this spiritual intentionality through the busyness of daily life. In Deuteronomy 6:6-7, Moses instructs, "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up." Your soulmate is studying these verses and asking God to help them create a home where His word is lived out naturally, where spiritual conversations flow easily, where God's presence is as natural as breathing. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to pray effectively for you and with you. They're worried about whether they'll be able to discern your spiritual needs, to pray in agreement with you, to intercede for you when you can't pray for yourself. They understand that prayer will be a foundational element of your relationship, and they're asking God to teach them how to pray in ways that align with His will for your life. The worry your soulmate carries is actually creating a spiritual foundation for your future relationship. Every concern they bring to God becomes a place where His grace can work. Every area where they feel inadequate becomes a place where God can demonstrate His sufficiency. Their worry is becoming worship. Their anxiety is becoming intercession. Their fear is becoming faith. Your soulmate is deeply concerned about their ability to handle conflict in your relationship. They're worried about whether they'll be able to fight fair, to address disagreements without damaging your connection, to work through differences in ways that actually strengthen your bond. They're studying biblical principles of conflict resolution and asking God to help them love you even in moments of disagreement. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 4:26-27, "In your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold." Your soulmate is memorizing these verses and asking God to help them apply them in your relationship. They're worried because they understand that how you handle conflict will determine the health of your relationship. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to be a good steward of the resources God will entrust to your family. They're worried about whether they'll be able to manage money wisely, to be generous with others, to provide for your needs, without being consumed by materialism. They understand that how you handle money reveals the condition of your heart, and they want their heart to be right before God. The Bible reminds us in 1 Timothy 6:10, "For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Your soulmate is studying this verse and asking God to help them maintain proper priorities when it comes to financial provision and material possessions. Your soulmate is worried about whether they'll be able to age gracefully with you, whether they'll be able to love you through the changes that time brings to both of your bodies and minds. They want to be the person who finds you beautiful at every stage of life, who loves you more deeply with each passing year. They're asking God to give them this kind of enduring love dot as we continue to explore the depths of your soulmate's heart. Remember that every worry they carry is actually a prayer being lifted to heaven on your behalf. They are concerned for your happiness, their anxiety about their worthiness, their fear of disappointing you. All of these are being transformed by God into intercession that's creating a spiritual covering over your future relationship. Asterisk. Your soulmate is experiencing what can only be described as divine lovesickness, a holy longing that goes beyond typical romantic desire. They're worried about this intense spiritual and emotional connection they feel to someone they haven't met yet. Sometimes they wake up in the middle of the night with their heart racing, feeling as if they've been in conversation with you in their dreams. They're concerned about whether this level of connection is normal, whether they're losing their mind, or whether God is truly orchestrating something supernatural between your souls. The angels want you to understand that this divine lovesickness your soulmate is experiencing is actually evidence of your spiritual compatibility. Your souls are already in communion in the heavenly realm, and this is filtering down into their earthly consciousness. They're worried because they've never experienced anything like this before. This sense of loving someone completely before meeting them. This feeling of missing someone they've never seen. This deep knowing that their heart belongs to someone whose face they don't yet know. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to love you through your healing journey. They can sense in the spiritual realm that you've been through experiences that have required God's healing touch, and they're worried about whether they'll be gentle enough with your tender places. They're asking God to give them supernatural sensitivity to your emotional needs, to help them be a safe place for your heart, to make them part of your healing process, rather than someone who might reopen old wounds. In Isaiah 53:5, we read about Christ. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. Your soulmate is studying this verse and asking God to help them understand that healing is a process, not an event. They're worried about whether they'll have the patience to love you through your continued healing, the wisdom to know when to be gentle and when to encourage strength. The depth of your soulmate's spiritual preparation is evident in how they're handling their current season of singleness. They're not just waiting passively, they're actively partnering with God in their preparation. They're worried about whether they're doing enough, whether they're growing fast enough, whether they're ready enough for what God is preparing. This holy impatience is actually evidence of their eagerness to please God and love you well. Your soulmate is experiencing supernatural dreams and visions about your future together, and these revelations are creating both excitement and anxiety. They're seeing glimpses of conversations you'll have, places you'll go together, challenges you'll face as a team, victories you'll celebrate. But with these prophetic insights comes the weight of responsibility. They're worried about whether they're interpreting these dreams correctly, whether they should share them with you when you meet, whether they're being presumptuous about God's plan. The Bible tells us in Joel 2:28, "And afterward I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." Your soulmate is experiencing this outpouring of God's Spirit as He prepares them for your union. They're worried because they want to be faithful to what God is showing them without getting ahead of His timing. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your success and achievements. They're worried about whether they'll be able to celebrate your victories without jealousy or insecurity, whether they'll be able to support your dreams even when they exceed their own accomplishments. They understand that true love celebrates the beloved's success, and they're asking God to deliver them from comparison and competition. The angels are revealing that your soulmate is deeply worried about their ability to protect your peace. They can sense that you're someone who values tranquility, who needs a peaceful environment to thrive, and they're concerned about whether they'll be able to create and maintain that atmosphere. They're worried about bringing unnecessary drama or stress into your life, about being a source of anxiety rather than peace. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your seasons of ministry and service to others. They understand that God has called you to serve His kingdom, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to support this calling even when it requires sacrifice from them. They don't want to be the spouse who holds you back from your divine assignments. They want to be the one who helps you fulfill them. In Mark 10:43-44, Jesus teaches, "Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all." Your soulmate is studying these verses and asking God to help them serve you with joy, to find fulfillment in helping you succeed, to discover their own greatness through serving your calling. Your soulmate is experiencing what could be called prophetic burden, a spiritual weight that comes from sensing the significance of your future union. They're worried about the generational impact of your relationship, the example you'll set for others, the testimony your love story will become. They can feel that your marriage will be more than just a personal blessing. It will be a demonstration of God's faithfulness to everyone who witnesses it. The depth of your soulmate's concern extends to the spiritual warfare that might intensify as your meeting approaches. They're worried about attacks on their mind, their emotions, their circumstances. They understand that the enemy doesn't want godly unions to form, doesn't want two people to come together in love and service to God. They're praying for protection and asking God to surround both of you with his angels. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to love you through your process of discovering your identity in Christ. They understand that you're still becoming who God created you to be, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to love the person you're becoming, not just the person you are when you meet. They want to be a catalyst for your spiritual growth, not a hindrance to it. The Bible reminds us in 2 Corinthians 5:17, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here." Your soulmate is asking God to help them love both who you've been and who you're becoming. They're worried about whether they'll be able to see you through God's eyes, to love you with his love, to believe in your potential, even when you can't see it yourself. Your soulmate is worried about their ability to maintain their individual relationship with God while building a relationship with you. They're concerned about losing their personal intimacy with God in the excitement of romantic love. They understand that their relationship with God must be the foundation of their relationship with you, and they're worried about keeping these priorities in proper order. The angels want you to know that your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love your past without judgment. They understand that your history has shaped who you are today, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to receive your story with grace and compassion. They don't want to be someone who makes you feel ashamed of your journey. They want to be someone who celebrates how God has brought you through it. Your soulmate is experiencing divine restlessness in their current situation. They might be feeling unsettled in their job, their living situation, their social circle. This restlessness is actually God preparing them for the changes that will come with your meeting, but it creates worry about whether they're hearing God correctly, whether they should make changes or wait for him to move them. In Proverbs 16:9, we read, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Your soulmate is learning to trust God's guidance, even when the path isn't clear, but they're worried about whether they're truly following his leading or trying to force things in their own timing. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your questions and doubts about faith. They understand that everyone goes through seasons of questioning, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to support you through these times without judgment. They want to be someone who strengthens your faith, not someone who makes you feel condemned for your honest struggles. The depth of your soulmate's preparation is evident in their prayer life. They're not just praying for themselves. They're interceding for you daily. They're asking God to protect you, to provide for you, to encourage you, to prepare you for your meeting. They're worried about the challenges you might be facing right now, the loneliness you might be experiencing, the doubts that might be creeping in about God's promises. Your soulmate is deeply concerned about their ability to be emotionally available to you. They're worried about whether they'll be able to give you the emotional attention and support you need, especially if they're naturally introverted or struggle with emotional expression. They're asking God to open their heart, to help them be vulnerable, to give them the courage to share their feelings openly. The Bible tells us in 1 Peter 4-8, "Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins." Your soulmate is studying this verse and asking God to help them love you with this kind of covering love. Love that protects, love that forgives, love that sees the best in you, even when you can't see it yourself. Your soulmate is also worried about their ability to create traditions and memories with you. They're concerned about whether they'll be able to make your relationship fun, whether they'll be able to create experiences that bring joy to your heart. They understand that love isn't just about the deep, serious moments. It's also about laughter, adventure, and shared joy. The angels are showing me that your soulmate is experiencing supernatural encounters during their worship times. They're sensing your presence in ways that can't be explained naturally, feeling your heart, sensing your prayers. These encounters are beautiful, but also overwhelming. They're worried about whether they're experiencing something real, or whether their longing for you is creating emotional confusion. Your soulmate is concerned about their ability to love you through change and transition. They understand that life will bring seasons of change, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to adapt together, whether they'll be able to grow in the same direction. They're asking God to help them be flexible while remaining rooted in their shared faith and values. As we continue to explore the depths of your soulmate's heart, remember that every worry they carry is actually intercession being lifted to heaven on your behalf. Their concern for your happiness, their anxiety about their worthiness, their fear of disappointing you, all of these are being transformed by God into prayers that are creating a spiritual covering over your future relationship. If you're feeling the truth of this message in your spirit, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others who might need to hear what God is saying about their divine connections. The angels have specifically requested that this message reach as many hearts as possible. Asterisk. Your soulmate is experiencing what can only be described as supernatural preparation in their dream life. They're having dreams where they're serving alongside you in ministry, raising children together, growing old hand in hand. But these aren't just wishful thinking. These are prophetic glimpses of what God is preparing. They're worried because these dreams feel more real than their waking life sometimes, and they're concerned about whether they're being presumptuous or whether God is truly showing them your future together. The angels want you to understand that your soulmate's worry extends to their ability to love you through your seasons of spiritual warfare. They can sense that you're someone who will be used mightily by God, and they understand that this comes with spiritual attacks. They're worried about whether they'll be able to stand with you in battle, whether they'll be able to pray effectively for you when you're under attack, whether they'll be able to be your armor bearer in the spiritual realm. Your soulmate is also deeply concerned about their ability to love you through your success without becoming proud or taking credit for what God does through you. They understand that pride can destroy relationships and ministries, and they're asking God to keep them humble, to help them remember that any good thing that comes through your union is because of His grace, not your own efforts. In James 4-6, we read, "But He gives us more grace." That is why Scripture says, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Your soulmate is studying this verse and asking God to help them remain humble throughout your relationship, to always remember that your love story is a gift from Him, not something you've earned or deserve. Your soulmate is experiencing divine encounters during their times of worship and prayer that are leaving them breathless with anticipation. They're sensing your spirit, feeling your prayers, experiencing a connection that transcends physical reality. But with these beautiful encounters comes worry about whether they're losing their grip on reality, whether they're becoming too emotionally invested in someone they haven't met, whether they're setting themselves up for disappointment. The depth of your soulmate's concern extends to their ability to love you through your calling to minister to others. They understand that God has placed a heart of compassion within you, that you're someone who will serve the broken, the hurting, the lost. They're worried about whether they'll be able to share you with others, whether they'll be able to support your ministry, even when it requires sacrifice from them. Your soulmate is also worried about their ability to create a legacy with you that honors God. They're not just thinking about your immediate future. They're thinking about the impact your relationship will have on future generations. They're concerned about whether they'll be able to build something with you that will outlast your physical lives, something that will continue to bring glory to God long after you're both in heaven. The Bible tells us in Psalm 127:1, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." Your soulmate is clinging to this verse, asking God to be the foundation of everything you build together. They're worried about trying to build something in their own strength, rather than allowing God to be the architect of your relationship. Your soulmate is experiencing supernatural downloads of understanding about your personality, your preferences, your love language. They're receiving insights about how to love you specifically, not generically. But with these revelations comes the weight of responsibility. They're worried about whether they'll be able to love you according to what God has shown them, whether they'll be faithful to steward these insights properly. The angels are revealing that your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your seasons of ministry travel and public service. They understand that God may call you to go places, to speak to people, to serve in ways that require time away from home. They're worried about whether they'll be able to support this calling without resentment, whether they'll be able to be your home base while you serve God's kingdom. Your soulmate is deeply worried about their ability to love you through the ordinary moments of life. They understand that love isn't just about the mountaintop experiences. It's about choosing to love through the mundane, the routine, the everyday challenges. They're asking God to help them find joy in the simple moments, to create romance in the ordinary, to keep their love fresh through all seasons of life. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your process of healing from past relationships. They understand that everyone carries wounds from previous connections, and they're worried about whether they'll be patient enough with your healing, gentle enough with your tender places, wise enough to know when to encourage and when to simply hold space for your pain. In Isaiah 61:1, we read about the anointing to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners. Your soulmate is asking God to anoint them to be part of your healing process, to help bind up any broken places in your heart, to be an agent of freedom and release in your life. Your soulmate is experiencing what could be called holy impatience, a divine urgency that makes them want to find you now, to start building your life together immediately. But they're also worried about this impatience, concerned about whether they're getting ahead of God's timing, whether they're trying to force something that needs to unfold naturally in His perfect season. The depth of your soulmate's preparation is evident in how they're handling their current relationships and responsibilities. They're worried about whether they've been faithful in the small things, whether they've been a good steward of what God has already given them. They understand that how they handle their current season will determine their readiness for what God is preparing. Your soulmate is also concerned about their ability to love you through your process of discovering your true identity in Christ. They understand that you're still becoming who God created you to be, and they're worried about whether they'll be able to love the person you're becoming, not just the person you are when you meet. They want to be a catalyst for your transformation, not a hindrance to it. As we come to the end of this powerful message, I want you to know that your soulmate's worry is actually a beautiful testament to their love for you. Every concern they carry, every question they bring to God, every fear they surrender to Him, all of these are creating a spiritual foundation for your future relationship. Their worry is becoming worship. Their anxiety is becoming intercession. Their fear is becoming faith. The angels want you to understand that your soulmate's preparation is almost complete. The season of waiting is drawing to a close, and the season of meeting is approaching. Everything they're worried about, everything they're praying about, everything they're preparing for, it's all leading to the moment when God will orchestrate your paths to cross at exactly the right time. Your soulmate loves you already, even though they haven't met you yet. They're praying for you daily, interceding for your protection, your provision, your peace. They're asking God to prepare them to love you well, to be worthy of the trust He's placing in them, to be faithful to the calling of loving you with His love. If this message has touched your heart, if you can feel the truth of what's being shared, please take a moment to share this video with your friends and family. Someone in your circle needs to hear this message about their divine connection. The angels have specifically requested that this revelation reach as many hearts as possible, and your sharing makes that possible. Please subscribe to God's message today and click the notification button so you'll be the first to know when we post another powerful message like this one. God has so much more to reveal about your divine connections, your spiritual journey, and His perfect plan for your life. Don't miss what He wants to share with you next. Finally, I want you to type, "I believe in God," in the comments below if this message has blessed your heart, and if you're ready to receive everything He has prepared for your love story. Your comment creates a spiritual vibration that aligns you with His perfect timing and opens your heart to receive all the blessings He has in store for you. God bless you, beautiful soul. Your soulmate is coming, and they're going to love you more beautifully than you ever imagined possible.